Welcome to the 48th episode of the GameFor Podcast. In this episode, still recording from home, we'll talk about the return to in-person tabletop gaming. I'm Adam.
I'm Matt.
And this is the GameFor Podcast. GameFor is a platform to help connect tabletop gamers and to help you get more out of your tabletop gaming. Matt and I are part of a software development and design company called Milk Can. And because most of the folks at Milk Can love tabletop games, we developed the GameFor app and launched it in early 2018. We launched this companion podcast in June 2019 to help tabletop gamers get more enjoyment out of their hobby. Due to the COVID-19 global pandemic, we hibernated the GameFor app in July of 2020 and plan to bring back a retooled version of the app for Android, iOS, and the web when gaming in person is safer, which we'll talk about today. Until then, we'll keep bringing you this podcast to help you get more out of your tabletop gaming. And speaking of tabletop gaming, what kind of stuff have you been doing recently?
Oh, so much stuff.
Yeah.
But for gaming stuff. So last week, I believe, we had our session 0, which is kind of that getting to know everybody, figuring out how everybody wants to play, how the group dynamic's going to work, what we're trying to get out of, kind of that good first session for RPGs that we talked about. I believe we talked about it during our Getting Started RPGs
Yeah, I think so.
podcast. Yeah, so we did that for a new Pathfinder 2nd edition game. So we did that, and I was able to go and take I actually had, I think the last time we talked, I had a character in mind. That one ended up going back on the back burner, and I came up with a new concept and got that all created this week. So first time ever completely rolling my own Pathfinder 2E character, and wow, it is not for the faint of heart.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's from everything I've always heard about, and I don't know a lot about Pathfinder 2E, but I know Pathfinder was always kind of considered to be like kind of D&D 3.75 for those of you kind of in the know.
Yeah. So it is, I mean, it's deep. What's nice is that it's very very dynamic. Like you don't have the cookie cutter. You don't feel like you have to go like, I'm going to be a rogue, monk, ranger with 3 different types of blood to try to give some kind of dynamic to your character. Like just saying like you're like, I'm an alchemist, but just saying like you're a fighter, there's a lot of depth that even before you hit level 2, your character is going to already have that sets it apart from, say, someone else.
Sure.
So yeah, it took a while. Like we were doing some stuff together because we were trying to figure out the Roll20 character sheet.
Oh, the online thing.
Yeah, which was nice. I know that it sounds like you have to pay money to get like everything kind of built in. So it wasn't as robust as say like your Beyond D&D Beyond, but even D&D Beyond, unless you pay for a bunch of stuff, you don't get everything as well. So
Sure.
But it was just kind of trying to figure out like where things go. I was having some issues because definitely was not set up with Alchemist in mind. So even though I've got most of the stuff now entered in I had to kind of like create a notes page that I'm setting everything up in as well. But yeah, sounds like it's gonna be a fun campaign. Everybody's kind of taking more like a lighthearted character approach. Like I don't think it'll be, so it's not gonna be a real serious one. I think we'll have fun. I think we'll be in character, but the characters are pretty fun characters to interact with. So
yeah, that's cool. And you're not the DM, so that you get to
try
a whole new
it was
thing
weird
there,
going through like a session 0 without me controlling it. It's been a while. Like I've done some one shots and stuff recently, but yeah, it's been a long time since I didn't have to run the session 0. And hearing how that was done by somebody else, definitely some stuff I was like, ooh, that's a really good way to do it. I'm definitely pulling that in. So, so if nothing else, it's good to just see how other people roll stuff. But Yeah, so we're
That's
excited.
cool.
So we're gonna take a. Originally, I think we were gonna try to start right away, but with schedules and then just the fact that we kind of threw a lot at the GM of what we wanted and stuff. I think we're gonna spend about a month getting our characters all honed in and the world kind of created. So we're gonna
Hmm.
start probably mid-April.
Now, is this a group that eventually might, once things get better and stuff, might go back to in person, or is this a group that's spread out all over the place?
We are all in the same area.
Hmm.
We have started kind of having the conversation, so definitely something I'll probably bring up later, and with
Hmm.
our current topic. But
Oh, yeah.
yeah, it's yet to be decided exactly if we could, but we kind of did it that way so that it was a possibility.
Right. Like if someone's on the other side of the country or whatever, then it's a little
Right,
bit more
COVID or
difficult.
not, you're
But
not probably going to game with them in person
right,
very
exactly.
often.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah. No, that's very cool. That's very cool. And then what else you got going on?
Um, well, I am leaving for a spring break trip. I'm going to go party in Miami because that seems like no, I'm not going to go party in Miami.
Woo!
Yeah,
Woo!
we're, we have rented a um Airbnb on the beach down in Gulf Shores,
Hmm.
which is kind of like Alabama, very western part of Florida. Um, and we're just basically driving down and then hanging out on the beach for a week, just to kind of get out after a year of being kind of cooped up, without kind of being able to kind of manage our own risk.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're leaving. Leaving next or this Saturday. We're leaving
Hmm.
this Saturday. I keep wanting to say next Saturday, but it is already this week.
Hmm.
So I have been trying to put together some stuff to do while I'm down there. Like I have not been able to paint much, so I'm putting together like a paint kit to kind of take with me, with like some
Mm.
benchers pre-primed and
Yep.
some paints and brushes and stuff like that. Like, so I have to kind of like, what do I need? What do I don't need? I might be doing some Rush Zenithal highlighting this week to kind of get some characters primed and ready to go. Lord knows I have enough to paint though, so I'm not too
Yeah. I
worried.
mean, yeah, most of us do. But that's cool.
Yeah.
I've got a portable nerding kit, and I made a video about portable nerding kits years and years and years ago.
Hmm.
But it's more for building. It wasn't. I didn't really. I've never. Well, I was gonna say I've never really painted on the road, but that's not true. I've painted a little tiny bit on the road. But yeah, it's usually for me more of a building thing. Like you sit there and like glue pieces together and sand them,
Hmm.
and
Yeah, this
mold
started.
lines and stuff.
It kind of started because I think like the first time because I normally paint in my workbench downstairs in
Hmm.
my hobby, space. And when I was teaching my kids how to paint, I was like, that space wasn't going to work, so we put down like paper or something on the tables upstairs. So I
Hmm.
kind of had put together some stuff like, oh, we need this, this, and this, and kind of brought that with, some paint handles and
Yeah.
paintbrushes. It's actually a big. It's like one of those like handled toolboxes kits. So
Hmm.
it's got like the nice tray, which works out well for putting paintbrushes on,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. And then it's really deep for putting handles and like citadel. I do like my different paints and stuff like that. So,
Yeah, tackle boxes are really good for that kind of stuff. Like especially
hmm
if you can get them. Like metal ones are fine, but they can be kind of heavy. But the plastic ones, especially if there's lots of little compartments and things like that, can be really useful as well. I've seen some people go as far as putting like making some of the little containers, some of the little drawer spots or whatever,
hmm
putting like craft foam on the inside of them, like gluing craft
oh,
foam
sure,
inside there,
yeah,
so
yeah,
that you can like keep a miniature in there, but then it won't get
mm
banged around and scrape off all the paint that you're in the mid process of painting.
yeah. No, that's a
Um,
really good idea.
I've also seen people just like use. I've honestly just used an old piece of T-shirt, like strip, like ripped up old T-shirts, and then you just kind of just you don't have to even glue it. You just sort of wrap the model and set it in that little area, and then it's going to protect it pretty well as well.
Yeah. Well,
But either way, I mean,
I've been shipping so many minis lately that I've
hmm
like whenever like any kind of package comes for anyone in the household, I kind of have kept anything that like any bubble wrap that's in pretty good condition, or
oh yeah,
any of the like the plastic strip, or that like that foamy strip stuff.
hmm hmm
So I've got a pretty nice collection set up downstairs. So yeah, I'm gonna have to steal some of that stuff too. So
yeah. That's
yeah.
that craft foam stuff. Like you can get it at craft stores and things like that, Joanne
Yeah.
Fabrics or whatever. And then I don't know what you glue it with. I mean, you could use hot glue maybe, but that might melt it a bit. I don't know if CA glue is the thing to use, but
Yeah.
I've seen other people do that to make this little kind of container, like those some of those little areas that you would put, I don't know, fishing lures in, I guess. But making them so that they're a little bit softer, so they don't bang up your
Right.
miniatures too much. No, that's very
But
cool.
yeah, that's kind of me in a nutshell. So, but how about yourself, sir?
Yeah, well, let's see. I haven't been doing as much painting as I would have liked. Well, I had actually. I did do some painting. I finished up some 3D printed demons that actually you had printed for me. It was 2 pairs of demons, so that's 4.
Yeah, the pictures
And
came out really nice.
yeah, they were a lot of fun to do. I put some of the pictures of them on Instagram. Lately I have not been like doing the normal, miniature photography thing where you try to like light everything very evenly and like, put it on a white background or like that kind of like white to blue fade or anything like that. Lately I've been setting up little tableaus and using crazy lighting and stuff like that. So you can't really, it's not that I'm not trying to show off the paint jobs. I'm just trying to make fun photographs. So I've been doing that, and those have been fun. So, but yeah, those miniatures came out pretty well. I mean, the prints came out great. The paint jobs came out decently, and I didn't spend a ton of time on them, but I wasn't trying to like go nuts with them. I was trying to get them to a good tabletop quality quickly. So yeah, those are done, and that was fun. And then on my other kind of thankfully these days painting outlet, Twitch, I've been working on this big monster called a Mutalith Vortex Beast, which is a Games Workshop model. He's like a big, huge chaos monster, and he's got like, I don't know, he's covered in so many bony protuberances. There's just like, all I did last night when I streamed was just pretty much paint. I had already gone through and on all the different little bony spiky bits, I already painted them all dark brown as a good undercoat. And then I just went through and painted them all like ivory. And it took me seriously like the entire, episode. Then I'm going to, next time on Friday, I'm going to put wash on all of them. And usually I go with a sepia, but I think on these I might actually go with a darker color, like a brown, like a normal like Agrex Earthshade or something like that.
Yep. Yeah.
And then, highlight them up a little bit and just kind of, but there's just so many of them. There's easily, I don't know, 100, 150. These spikes all over his big stupid body.
Right. There's an artist somewhere going like, oh yeah, I had to sculpt each one of those, sir.
Sure, but they probably did it digitally. And there's a lot of copy and paste. It was easy. It probably wasn't actually easy, but yeah. So that's and the thing is, it's funny is because like I'm going to use him in Warcry, but I think, and I don't even remember anymore, but I'm pretty sure I bought him on eBay. And then I had to rip him off of a rectangular base because he was originally put together for probably Warhammer Fantasy back when everything was squares and rectangles. So I had to rip him off the rectangular base. I remember doing that. And then, so that's why I know he's an eBay guy, probably. I mean, well, I could have bought him someplace else used. I know I didn't build him, but somebody else did. And then I put him on an oval base like he's supposed to be on these days. And I did texturing on the base and all that stuff. And then I, primed him, and then also Zenithal primed. And then I started painting him. And then I stopped and then haven't touched him since February of 2016. And I know that because I remember because I was working on him, and then I got to a stopping place because my wife and I were going to go see Deadpool in the theater. And that came out right around Thanksgiving.
Yeah, not two.
It came out right around
first.
Yeah, no, not two. Yeah, the first one. It came out just around Valentine's Day, 2016. I looked it up online. So yeah, that was literally the last time that I touched him. Otherwise, he's just been like in the basement, just kind of sort of collecting dust. So when I got done with the big Terrorgeist, I was like, I got to find something else to paint. And I was hoping on building some stuff that weekend before I needed to start painting again, but I didn't get the time and stuff. So I'm like, all right, what do I have? I know I've got stuff laying around here that's in partial condition. And so I found him, and I was like, yeah, that'll be cool. Because I can use him in Warcry as well. So it's not just painting for the fun of painting, which I enjoy, but I generally am trying to paint stuff for the tabletop. So he is in progress, and he'll be in progress on Twitch for a bit longer. And then I am trying to get actually a resin printer of my own. I've been trying to get the same one you've got. Yeah. I keep finding myself looking at like these different, like, My Mini Factory, and a lot of other places, and all the different STLs and all the different models out there. And it's just, I find myself playing more and more indie games. I still play, Games Workshop stuff, but I find myself playing more and more indie games. And because of that, I'm finding myself looking for things that GW doesn't make. And so, if you want to have the widest possible, net to throw on different subject matter for models, it's the 3D printing these days. So I'm trying to get a printer, an Elegoo Saturn, and they're out of stock on Amazon, unless I would like to buy one classified as a collectible from a scalper for $300 more than retail, which I'm not going to buy anything from a scalper. But anyway, so I'm working on getting that done and everything. And then I've got to find a good place to put it in the basement, and I've got a pretty good idea. We've got this little side room that I think I can kind of close off a little bit, put a decent vent in there. Not too difficult because it's right by a window, like a basement window. So
get some lac tables. I just picked up, my wife picked me up 2 more IKEA lac tables. So,
well, how tall are those?
So I think each one, they're fairly square. So I would say it's probably 2.5, 3 feet tall.
Okay, interesting. Really? I didn't think they were that tall. Huh?
Maybe, that might be. Yeah, I think I'm exaggerating now. That's probably half that. So it's probably half a meter or a foot and a half. Because I've been doing 2 on top of one another for like
sure, when you stack them, because then you 3D print with not with resin but with filament. You 3D print brackets.
Yep.
Yeah, it's to kind of hold them together and you screw them together. That's cool. I actually I found a table in the hallway where my studio is downtown, and I was like, and I'm like, this would be good. I wonder whose it is. And so I've asked around, including the landlord, and everybody's like, which literally means that somebody who's renting one of those studio spaces put it out in the hallway because they don't know what to do with it, and now they're like, oh yeah, I don't know whose it is. So I'm like, well, good, I'm going to take it. So, but yeah, that table's like 24 inches by like 40, and it's about 30 inches high, and I'm like, oh, that'll be a decent size, I think. So
yeah.
But free table, hooray! Nice. But yeah, so that's the plan. That's where I'm at going right now, at least with that kind of stuff. I'm probably not going to be doing a lot of extracurricular painting or anything like that for a little while, because I've got this big sort of secret project that I'm working on. So yeah, it's hopefully we got another month or so on it, and then I'll be done. But
and then everybody will find out.
True, that too. But also then, but otherwise, I'll be doing the majority of I'll still be painting on Twitch. That'll be probably the only time that I'll have to paint. But got to keep busy,
Very cool.
Yeah. And so the subject for today's video is a little timely, we thought, due to some announcements and stuff like that have come out relatively recently.
Right. And everybody knows that, I have officially gotten my first shot for the vaccine. That news, that press release went out early this last week. And
yeah, it was in the paper. That's true. That's true. I'm still hoping to get one soon. So there's that. But it does seem as if we're finding a bit of a light at the end of the tunnel for COVID to some degree. Not everywhere. And again, we're predominantly probably talking for the most part about the US because that's where we both live. And so, I know that there are other parts of the world, and you may be listening to this there, where things are not necessarily anywhere near that tunnel.
Poor Brazil. Yeah,
Brazil's one of the big ones
there.
Right
but then others are like New Zealand's like, we've been fine for 10 months now.
Yeah, exactly. Else is doing. And I think like everybody in Israel's got the vaccine already, if that has it, or whatever that wants it. So it's all over the world. It's different kind of situations as far as that's concerned. But at least here in the U.S., it is starting to roll out to more people. My mom's got both of hers. My in-laws got both of theirs.
Right.
And there's also the ones that are just one shot. Is it the Johnson & Johnson one? It's not quite as effective. It's got a slightly lower efficacy. Something that's a word like that. I
don't know.
Something like that. Yeah. But still, it's one shot, and you don't have to go back for the second one. So So that's a benefit, and we're seeing numbers down. But then, like you mentioned earlier, there's stuff going on like in Miami Beach, which is not going to help. But in
Right.
theory, hopefully by the end of this year, we should be again not back to normal, but we should be more normal. We should be a good deal
Hmm.
more normal. But
Right.
that's not
Things
to
should look
say,
right. Things are going to look more like they did a little over a year and a half ago.
yeah, one
So,
would hope.
hmm
Now, that's not to say though that there hasn't still been, even in 2021 here, there's been casualties as far as gaming conventions and things like that.
hmm
Um, so Las Vegas Open, which normally would be done in January, is one that I
Yep.
attend. I like to attend. That was still obviously canceled. That was the
Right.
last convention I was at. Was that actually LVO 2020? So that was end of January 2020, and we were
hmm
starting to hear about COVID, but it wasn't that big of a deal yet. Little did we
Right. That
know.
was someone else's problem still.
A little bit, yeah. Although to be fair, when I was in Vegas, it was during Lunar New Year, so there was a ton of people, Asian
Oh, that's
folks,
right. Yeah.
who were there vacationing, and so I had people mention to me, they're like, well, and I'm like, well, that should be fine. And then fast forward a couple months later, we were in Reno, you and I,
hmm
for the Game Manufacturers Association Expo,
Right.
and there were a bunch of different companies that decided last minute to cancel, and
Yeah.
everyone
Like
was
just
walking
as we were
around with
like getting ready to
hand
leave town.
sanitizer.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah,
Hand sanitizer. That was when people started doing the elbow shake or the foot shake.
right. The elbow bump instead of shaking
I think
hands.
you made it through the entire convention without ever touching the elevator button or anything else with your
Yeah,
hands.
I was using
Um,
my elbows for the elevator buttons. I
I,
mistakenly
I,
shook hands a couple of times, but yeah, generally it was the elbow bump.
yeah, yeah, I would screw up and hit the elevator button and then have to find the Perel or whatever at
Hmm,
the
hmm.
nearest thing.
But then, like while we were there at at the Gamma Expo,
Mhm.
that's when NBA got canceled, NCAA got canceled,
Yeah,
Adepticon got canceled, like all these different things.
NHL, yep, all that was
Yeah,
when I was
yeah,
like, oh, okay, now we're playing for real now, boys and girls. Those are
yeah, exactly.
multi-million-dollar things that they're not going to $1 billion probably
Yeah.
that they are not going to cancel on a whim.
Right, exactly. And then, like as it went on, like I said, Adepticon got canceled during that time, and then people were like, "Well, I don't know, maybe Gen Con," and then I was like, "No, it's not gonna." And then they canceled Gen Con in
Mhm.
August, and basically everything got canceled in 2020. You've all been there, you know what's going on. But
Yep,
now into 2021, LVO again, early January, or
yep,
sorry, late January, early part of the year, late January. Still,
uh,
also, no, not didn't happen. And
right,
Adepticon would be literally this weekend
right.
coming
Like
up.
we would be, yeah, going to that rather than me heading out of town for something
Right,
else.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. So that's Adepticon is also again this year canceled, and also like
hmm
another like local convention that we like to go to, Fire and Ice, which
So even
it's
though
usually
it's a
in
small one,
February.
but yeah, it still
Yeah,
just wasn't safe.
yeah. And then
Mm,
there was relatively recent news about Nova Open, which is
mm,
another you know Fire and Ice is a convention that's designed. Most of these that I've been talking about are miniatures conventions because they're conventions that I generally go to. Fire and Ice is like a normal, like average tabletop convention, kind of a small local convention, five six
yep.
hundred people. Um, but Nova Open announced that their convention, which normally takes place in very very late August, usually into early September, this year is also canceled. Now
hmm
there are 2,000 to 3,000 folks at that convention,
Right.
and it's basically in DC. It's technically in Northern Virginia, hence the Nova. But as the crow flies, they're like 4 miles away from the White House. So it's just
hmm
like over, that whole area is a little squirrely as far as borders are concerned. So, yeah, it's, they were kind of back and forth and thinking and hemming and hawing, and then they decided to pull the trigger and say no. But other conventions have instead, for this year, 2021,
hmm
slid back some. It was announced last week that Gen Con, the biggest
hmm
convention here in the United States for tabletop gaming, 70,000 people normally, they decided to slide back from their like early to mid August timeline, and they bumped it back to the 16th through the 19th of September,
Okay.
which
Yep.
is it's a big deal for a convention like that size, you know,
Right. That's
in
hotels and
downtown. Oh yeah,
spaces and
hotels,
traveling and yeah.
exactly, and trying to not like do it during who knows, the Indy 500 or like any of the other car races that they have going on there. I mean, there's all
Football.
kinds of stuff. Yeah. Oh yeah, exactly. You're right.
They
Like
could,
a lot of what happens at Gen Con happens in the Lucas Oil Stadium where the Colts play,
right.
So if they don't push it back, just cavalier. Now, there have been complaints because obviously it's during school now. So a lot of educators are like, no, I really can't come, or I can't bring my kids if I'm not an educator, or things like that. It's difficult. And that's understandable. And it's also technically during Yom Kippur. So that's like a very big deal. Obviously, it's like one of the holiest of holidays for the Jewish faith. And so, but again, I get the feeling that they didn't have a lot of control over it. Like when they're like, oh, well, maybe we should do it this weekend. I think it was basically like, you either do it the weekend you already have planned.
Right.
We have like one other option, or else it's next
or you
year.
just wait till next year, and they just were like, well, I guess we'll just do it this year and here, and whoever can make it can make it. And
they are also still, even in mid-September, they are all still also putting an attendance cap on. And they're also pushing heavy into doing a lot of virtual stuff for the folks that can't come. So it's still a hybrid approach, and you're gonna, I think, keep seeing that. And then another convention that also slid, but they announced this way earlier, if not end of 2020, they may have announced it at the very beginning of 2021. But Origins, which is another big tabletop, like all kinds of different tabletop board games, RPGs, whatever. That big convention, not as big as Gen Con. Gen Con's about 70,000. Origins is about 20,000, but still 20,000 is nothing to sneeze at. And it is
older than Gen Con too.
Yes, actually, at that I don't know. Maybe.
Origins is where they first announced D&D.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
so it actually is a precursor. So. Yeah, I mean, they are the original. So
my first Gen Con was the year that Gen Con and Origins were together at the same time. Because Origins used to travel around from city to city. It wasn't until the mid 90s where they decided to stick in Columbus from then on. But yeah, my 92, when I went to my first Gen Con, was Gen Con 25, and Origins was happening in the same building at the same time. Like it was just planned that they decided to mix them together, which was really interesting. Anyway, they've pushed back their normal convention, which is usually in June, to October.
Right.
So that's also a kind of a big deal on that situation. Again, same situation probably with people who, are educators and, all that kind of stuff. But I think that's what's going to be interesting is that it's going to be interesting to see how many conventions get pushed back into the fall, and then they're all going to happen on top of each other or right near each other.
Right. And like some are still even tentative, like Gamehole Con's usually in November.
Usually late. It's usually right around Halloween.
Right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So late October, early November, somewhere right around there in Madison, Wisconsin.
Wisconsin, yeah. And that one's probably 5,000 to 6,000 people.
Hey, we're going to do this. We have to start going if we're going to do it. That's the thing. All these conventions, even, when you just have a few thousand, is that they're trains. You're not going to turn on a dime. You can't start them on fast. So they are like, we're proceeding as though we can, but we probably won't know until like a week or two ahead of time, possibly even then, if it's 100% going to happen. Like the public health department could just like a week ahead of time be like, yep, sorry, no, we're not going to allow you to do it. Like right now they got the initial okay, like, yeah, we should be fine by then, go ahead. But they're still like, this is still up in the air. We don't know.
I mean, who knows? I mean, there might be another variant that pops up that's completely resistant, or there might be a completely other thing, or maybe all of a sudden everyone will decide they hate games now. Or I mean, that's unlikely. But like there's all kinds of options, and I think it's important for these conventions specifically to be able to let people know we're hoping, but understand that we still can't 100% sure say. I mean, obviously nothing's 100%. You could, everything could be fine, and I don't know, a meteor could hit Indianapolis and then mess up, Gen Con. So, but still,
and if a meteor does hit, you know who to blame now. But
yeah, that's true. That's totally.
Yeah, you just open yourself up. I mean,
I wish I could control meteors. That would be awesome. Well, actually,
have you ever tried before?
I mean, no. True.
So,
that's a good point. But yeah, so conventions are still here in 2021, a tenuous thing. I do
Yeah.
remember back in April and May when we were still thinking, well, maybe, I
Hmm.
bet the fall conventions will still be good, and
Right. Right. Yeah,
so
we were
yeah,
so hopeful and
it's
yet naive then.
yeah, exactly. But I think because of the one of the big deals, honestly, is the vaccine, you know,
Mm. Hmm.
and that's going to be important. But it's not just about conventions, obviously, because conventions, you and I, we love going to conventions and things like that, but not everybody
Right. Right.
does
Right.
that. But there's also a lot of people who are just going to play at their local store. Maybe it's Friday Night Magic. Maybe it's getting together and playing in a I don't know, Age of Sigmar tournament. Maybe
Right.
it's pickup games or whatever. Maybe it's board game night. I know a lot of
Hmm.
people that like to play RPGs. Like a lot of different game stores will have like a special room that you can sign out or rent or something like that, so you can play board
Right.
games there instead of playing at somebody's house that maybe you don't know as well or
Hmm.
whatever, that kind of thing. And stores, I mean, most stores have been basically shut down as far as, I mean, early on, stores were shut down. Basically, you could do curbside pickup. And then they were like,
Right.
okay, you can come in with a mask and stuff like that. But
And
still, a
only
lot
like
of
two
stores,
people at a time. I think. Like
right.
I remember
Yeah.
that first weekend. I think it was when the ninth edition of Warhammer came out. That
Oh,
was
sure.
like the
So about
first like
July-ish, late July of like
yeah,
2020.
and it was at that time they're like, oh, you can only have like four people in the store, so there was like a 6 foot separated line slowly forming outside the store,
Hmm.
but nobody was really quite sure because there was no signs that that was actually what needed to be done. But it was like somebody said that this was what was happening, and so then everybody else just kind of got that word, and then so we just started all lining up, and then as like one group came out, the next group went in, and was
Yeah.
but everybody kind of did the I don't know for sure that inside knows that this is even happening. Like,
Well,
but
but
we're like, well, but
it's better to
at
be
the
safe
worst,
than
we're standing
sorry.
outside, and it was not that bad of weather at the time. So
No, it was July. It wasn't too bad. Yeah.
yeah,
Unless it was like
so
really hot or something. But yeah, so, stores in your local area, some of them, it depends. Like there were different state kind of mandates that said
hmm.
this and that and the other thing and whatever. And so,
Some are like, oh, yeah, like I don't care about the state mandate. Like we are still going to be try to game safe, and we're not ready to do this event. Or some are like, maybe they pause for a little bit and are completely back to how things, gaming as much as they did beforehand.
hmm I mean, I
Hmm.
think, and I don't know this for sure, so maybe somebody in the comments can back me up, but I know for a while that Wizards of the Coast basically just like normally if you play Magic, they have this thing called Friday Night Magic, which strangely
Hmm.
it happens on Friday nights, and you go to your local store, and it's kind of like a little mini tournament, like every single week, and you get a number from Wizards of the Coast. And then you can kind of track your rating and stuff like that. And the
Right.
store like punches in your wins and losses and this and that. And it's all a thing. And people who really like Friday Night Magic, really, it's a big deal, and they love to do it every week. And after the pandemic kind of started and things and stuff started closing down, Wizards shut that down. They're just like, don't enter stuff into this database. We won't take it. You shouldn't be having Friday Night Magic right now,
Mm.
So, you had some stores in some states where they were like just not as concerned, and they would have maybe Friday Night Magic, but just not registered, or they would do it whenever they wanted to do it. But there was a lot of places that have just not had, because that's the thing about, especially with Magic, it's you're close to somebody, you know what I mean? More often than not, you're sitting across from each other on a 30-inch wide, normal 6 foot conference table. So you're
Right.
right in somebody's face almost, you know what I mean? And you're
And
sitting there
you're right.
playing,
And sometimes you have to exchange cards, or yeah,
right?
take
Yeah, yeah.
control of cards, and so you're touching some cards, and
hmm So it was, there's a lot of that not been going on, which has really seen the growth of the online version,
hmm.
Magic the Gathering Arena, I
Arena.
believe is
Yep.
what it's called. Yep, yep. So, that's kind of a big deal. Obviously that kind of takes the stores out of it to some degree, but that's been an issue. And now hopefully, and again, like I said, I don't know if Friday Night Magic's back online yet or not, but I do know that some local stores, I mean, even around here, some local stores are starting to do in person, like modern nights on Tuesday and stuff like that and
Hmm.
things. I know that our
And yeah,
local
some are
store that
like yeah, if the event's on, the event's on. Some are like, yeah, the event's on, but only the first 10 can come in.
Exactly.
So,
Most of them are limiting still, even now, number of people. And
hmm
I know, like one of our local stores, they got one of those head thermometer things, the little laser
hmm
one or whatever, so you don't have to touch the
yep.
person, and they're checking people's temperatures, and you got to wear a mask and all that kind of stuff. So every store and area is going to have different rules for a while. And though you
hmm
may be talking to friends who are like, "Oh yeah, it's great. I go to the store and I don't have to wear a mask and everything's awesome, and we're just but then there's other, in your area, it's very possibly different. And so that's a thing that we're still going to have to deal with, honestly, for quite some time.
Right.
And as rules will change and things will stay in
And
flux,
yeah, that's the
probably
thing
at
too. They
least
might
for
be
another
open one
year.
week, and something could happen. They're not like that the next week. So
Sure.
yeah,
I mean,
just
it
be in
could be
contact with
somebody who
the
works at the
store.
store who all of a sudden has who gets COVID or something
hmm
like that. And now they have to
hmm
change things quite a bit, just to make sure that
hmm
that's an issue. But yeah, so everything is going to be like, again, the hope is that things are getting better, and it seems to be heading in that direction. And we're seeing some conventions slide, and some say, yeah, we're going to wait till next year again, and other ones, but your store comfort level and things like that are going to be important for you to at least track. Like I am
hmm
still, I'll be honest with you, until I get the vaccine, uh, like I still don't plan on going and playing at a local store, and
hmm
that's just my personal thing. But you may think differently, and that's fine. Like it's okay
Right.
that everybody's kind of comfort levels are going to be different.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Like, and don't feel bad that you feel comfortable or you don't feel comfortable at this point. I
Hmm.
mean, I still think being cautious isn't bad, but if you're like, I feel comfortable because I know of this, this, and this, and this is what I'm doing. That's you. I've been telling people it's kind of like driving on the highway. Um, everybody that goes, everybody that goes faster than you is a crazy idiot, and everyone that goes slower than you is, grandpa or grandma, and they need to get
Right?
off the
Yeah.
road
Yeah.
if they're too scared to drive. There's very few times that you're driving on the highway and you're like, that other driver is a outstanding good driver just like me.
George Carlin used to have a bit about that, but with a lot more swear words in it. But yeah, it was kind of
Yeah,
the same thing about everyone who's faster than me is a maniac, and that kind of stuff.
right.
But yeah, it's
And that's kind of how it feels with COVID stuff. Like it seems like you'll see someone do something that you're not comfortable with, and you're like, "Wow, I can't believe they're doing that." And other stuff, you're like, "Really? You're not comfortable doing that? Like, what's different than this?" So,
yeah, no, and again, it's to some degree, like if I don't know, I've been finding as I've been going to the grocery store, wearing a mask. There's big honking signs all over the doors that say you need to wear a mask, but
mhm.
they don't. It seems as if they don't and some places will literally like police that. There's
Right?
a big chain of hardware stores in our area
Mm.
in the
Yeah, and
Midwest
I
called
know who you're talking about. Yep,
Menards. Yeah, yeah.
yep.
And early on in this thing, they had like paid, I think possibly armed guards, maybe with a taser, but whatever, still, who stood at the
I don't know
front
if they
door.
were
And if you
AIMS.
tried to come in without
Yeah,
a,
they're.
because you don't want to like give some 17-year-old kid, okay, your job is to tell people that they can't come in the store without a mask, because that kid's not
hmm
getting paid to do that. But you get a security guard, that's a different story. And so they were
hmm
saying, look, you can't come in without a mask. There's a
hmm
sign, you got to get a mask, here you go, we have masks, and all that kind of stuff. But there are other places that would put signs all over and then not really do anything if you didn't. And people were just trying to basically be good about it, but some people, they don't agree. And so that's one
Right.
thing. But if
And,
it's a situation of like, okay, I've gone in here, they ask you to wear a mask and you're not wearing a mask, I'm going to judge you. I'm not going to lie. I'm going to be like, and I'm not
hmm
going to get real close to you. And that's my personal comfort level right now.
hmm
Now, I'm not going to start a fight with that person probably, because I just don't, keep your eyes on your own paper kind of a thing. If more people just
Right.
sort of thought about themselves a little bit,
Yeah,
uh,
I'll be judging you, but
a little,
judging you from
no,
afar.
yeah, and maybe it's not thinking about themselves. I think a lot of people think about themselves. Sometimes the people that all they do is think about themselves. I think
Mm.
I don't know. Like I guess the question is, does it affect you? You know what I mean?
I mean, possibly,
Well,
but
sure. I mean,
if
but
you stay distant, yeah, if you stay 6 feet from them, then if they get sick, they get sick, and not you. But
right? Yeah,
they
no,
could
no.
get
I mean,
more other people. There's
I
a
guess I mean it from the aspect of like if you see somebody who's wearing like a weird shirt or their haircut's really strange. what effect does it actually have on you? There's no reason for you to go up
Right.
there and talk to them and say stuff because it literally has no effect on you. Now, with a
And
virus, that's a slightly different story, and I totally
right.
understand that. But I think if more
At the
people
same
kind of kept to
right.
themselves, and yeah, that's
And at the same time, like if you think about it, like nobody's ever gone, you know, oh, this one person called me out on Facebook, and now I've completely changed all my political views, and I'm now
yeah.
this
Well,
different person
that's
now.
also true. Yeah, it's hard to
Like
convince people, obviously,
the,
via
nobody's
shoving in
probably
aisle
you're
9.
probably not going to convince anybody
Hmm.
that they're wrong or they're doing it different. So it's probably not worth going out of your way to
And
do.
so it comes to your decision at that point, then, in my opinion,
Hmm.
to then decide, okay, well, like if you were like, I want to go down to my local shop and play some Star Wars Legion with somebody who I vaguely know through the shop, and
Yep.
you go down there and you've both decided to wear masks because the sign still says masks, or maybe the sign doesn't
Hmm.
say masks, but you decided, it's still not a bad idea. And
Right.
there are other people there who are playing other games and they're not masking up.
Hmm.
I mean, it's up to the store owner to some degree to kind of enforce that.
Right.
So if they say, look, you should be wearing masks, then it's, then you should follow what the store owner says. But if they say, yeah, don't, you don't have to, but you still want to, there's no reason to, you know, um, for you to get in those people's faces, and there's no reason for them to get in your face either. Like I was literally a couple days ago, I was walking out of my studio to my car, and I had my mask on because no,
Hmm.
I take that back. I had left the studio, gone to the coffee shop, so I've got my camera case in one hand and a
Yeah.
coffee in the other, and I'm still wearing my mask, walking to the car, and some woman in the passenger seat of a car going by yelled at me out the window. She's like, "You don't need to wear a mask. You're outside," and I'm like, with what hand am I going to take this off? I'm
Right.
carrying. Would you shut up? Why don't you stay in your own lane? And they just, oh my god. Anyway, maybe I'm
Yeah.
going off in a different direction here, but that's, you know what I mean? Like that's the thing.
Right.
It's still, there's a lot of stress behind it. There's a lot of conflict to some degree, or can be.
Hmm.
And I think if we all sort of try to, as we hopefully slide towards something that's a little bit more towards normalcy, I really do hope that we can kind of think about other people, both in like, okay, this person would prefer it if I come into their store wearing a mask. Great.
Right.
Or,
Or
but on
and
the
then
other
you
hand,
and
also
then
don't,
nothing says you
yeah,
have to go to that store. If you're like, oh, they really want people to wear masks, but I really don't feel like wearing a mask anymore because of X, Y, Z,
yeah,
then just don't go there.
yeah,
Or if
exactly.
you're like, oh, this store's not making anyone wear a mask, then but you're like, they should be wearing masks. Well, you can either go in there wearing a mask if you think that's safe enough, or if you're like
Hmm.
that's not safe enough, then don't go there. I mean,
Yeah, it's to some
it's
degree, it is voting with your dollars, is what it is.
mhm.
And it's your right to decide to not. Let me see. I'm trying to say this without making it's up to you to decide whether or not to abide by their rules. If you go into their store, then you kind of need
You're
to abide by the
choosing to
rules, but
do
you
it.
don't have you exactly, but you don't have to go into the store, or
Right.
the convention or whatever, because who knows? Honestly, with even something like in mid-September with Gen Con, like, I don't know, is it going to be expected that you wear masks or
Right.
not? I mean,
Or
like, I'll
or
do it.
maybe
It's
they'll
fine.
say, yeah, they might just say you're only allowed to come if you can show your vaccine card.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Even though
That's
they know
possible
that
too.
vaccines aren't 100% guaranteed,
Sure.
knowing that if everybody's vaccinated, the chances of it having an outbreak is all,
Very, very
pretty,
less. Very, very less. Yeah.
yeah, pretty
Yeah.
small. So
Yeah.
that,
I
that
mean,
could be a thing. Like, and that's what when I got my first shot, they're like, here's your card, keep it with you. Don't show it on social media because the serial number is how they can look up your vaccine. So please stop doing that if you're doing that, or cover up that little serial
yeah.
number. Um, but yeah, they're like, they might start saying like, that might be how some stuff starts opening up is, you can
Hmm.
now travel to another country, but this country not only do you have to have a passport, now you also have to have your vaccination card. So
Well, hopefully by fall they'll have the handheld microchip checking, like, wands to see if the microchip from your vaccine is now floating through your bloodstream, and then they'll just know right
right.
there. You'd be like, yeah, they'll just wave it over you and go, oh, I'm sorry, you weren't vaccinated, because we're not
Well,
getting
and
any
then all of
we're
us
not
are
getting
going to
any
have the new.
5G out of you.
I've been using my new Microsoft Windows phone that I picked up this week. I don't know why; it just seemed like a really good idea.
Yeah, it's
Um,
true.
I think I might have heard about an advertisement on my Zune.
Right. Yeah. No, that's absolutely the case. Yeah. When it was announced that Gen Con was going forward in September, with a friend of mine who we usually, a bunch of us go down as a group, and he is always the guy who kind of
Oh, he's the hotel savant.
Yeah, he's the hotel savant. Exactly. Yeah. And so he's already like, yeah, we already got 2 hotels. It's fine. Because we try to look for, yeah, he's got ways. Anyway. And he's like, so just everybody by September, just try and get your vaccine. Just please try to get your vaccine. And I responded as a joke. I said, oh, I don't need the vaccine. I already got 5G on my phone. So it's fine. And he thought that was enjoyable, but, and it's true. Technically, I do have 5G on my phone, but it only shows up once in a while, like only certain parts of town. So,
well, it depends on as more people get vaccinated, it'll be more common.
Right? Yeah, it's like it's the new type of mesh network, is what it is. Yeah, that's not bad.
That's not a bad idea, though. Okay, anyway,
it's not a good idea. So I don't know. I mean, jokes aside, we all have to, I think, try to, keep other people in mind and people's comfort levels and stuff like that. It's been a long year. It's been a long, know that terrible
it's okay
year.
If you're like, you know what, I don't think I still feel comfortable going to a convention this year, and you miss out on convention. The items are going to be available in the store. You're still going to be, you're not missing out on anything that you're not going to have an opportunity to get at some point. So,
and a lot of these conventions have a lot of the content. Like I said, this year Gen Con's doing a lot more to have like online content. So if you're
right,
I mean, and there are people that honestly, I've always thought that, like, especially a big one like Gen Con, like it's a big destination. They should have been doing virtual content for years. And it's not because of diseases, but it's just for, I can't make it this year, or I've always been thinking about going.
Right.
Well, that too. Yeah. But I've been I've been thinking about going, but now I want to sit in on a couple of seminars, and because that becomes an advertising thing. I used to work for a company that has like a humongous event every year. 500,000 people all come to the same city to watch airplanes fly around and do stuff and whatever and all that jazz. And I don't want to say televised it, but they broadcasted it on the internet, a lot of it, because the more you watch that stuff when you're not there is the more likely you're going to try to get there next year.
Absolutely. And they are doing the pop-up Gen Con events. They've been doing that for a couple.
They're bringing that
weeks.
back they're bringing that back again this year. Yeah, I mean, they didn't do it last year really because of COVID, but they're going to be bringing back the pop-up Gen Con stuff.
So you can go to your more local friendly local game stores. I saw Free RPG Day is coming in October, I believe.
Oh, okay, right, yeah, and then probably Board Game Expo or BGX is probably not again this year, but maybe next year they'll have both of them.
Right. That would be my guess. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and BGX is like Board Game Expo, or Free RPG Day is a thing. And these happen in your local stores potentially. And then you can go and play games and sometimes get some kind of free kind of promo stuff and things like that. And so
lots of demos.
Keep an eye on your local store and see what how their wind is blowing. You know what I mean? Like, and see how that works. And keep an eye on the conventions you like to go to. And there's a lot of small conventions too. And here, the thing is that if it's a convention of a couple hundred people, that's probably going to, I don't want to say fly under the radar, but it's probably going to be something that is more allowed than a group of 60 to 70,000 people.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Different. It's like, I can go to certain restaurants, but the big all you can eat buffets, I'm not going to feel comfortable with it for a while.
Exactly. Yeah. So it, like I said, it seems as if we're heading towards the end of the tunnel. We're seeing a light. It seems to not be a train. So that's good. And, hopefully this will be something that'll be in our rearview mirror soon.
Yeah. None of us had to put like blindfolds on and get into a rowboat with Sandra Bullock. So, I mean, things are better than they could have been. So
that took a direction. I wasn't sure where you were going with that, but then I saw that movie. Yeah, I wasn't sure what you were talking about. Like, I was just doing a bunch of vehicle kind of like analogies, and then all of a sudden you go all Bird Box. Yeah, no, God forbid that we. Thankfully, we didn't have Bird Box.
We didn't have Bird Box. We had,
Yeah, really. That's. All right. Well, thanks again for listening to this episode of the GameFor Podcast. If you've got questions or comments and you're watching on YouTube, please leave a comment below. If you're listening via your favorite podcast player or just aren't into the whole YouTube comment section thing, then you can feel free to reach out to us via email at podcast@iamgamefor.com. You can also keep us up to date with us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And check out our website at www.iamgamefor.com. That is www.iamgamefor.com. Thanks.
Thanks.